State Treasurer Laura Montoya, the first Latina elected treasurer in the nation's history. Thank you for joining us here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Before we get into your proposal about baby bonds, tell the viewer what is baby bonds? What are they and why are they important right now?
So for me, baby bonds is a game changer in bridging the gap of inequity between rich and poor. It's helping change the wealth divide. What they do is you have a certain amount of money, you put it in a trust, you invest it that entire time, and then once the legislation is passed, any baby born in New Mexico will have the opportunity to have something similar to a trust fund when they turn 18. And depending on what the legislature decides on, we're hoping that it will allow for schooling, the trades, books, maybe a car so they can get to and from work, being able to help with a business proposal or a down payment on a home. Something that can allow them to really bridge that gap right at that age limit. And they wouldn't get the money directly. It would be through the state, and then the state would pay, for example, the university or the trade school or whoever it might be. If they didn't need the money, then there's a potential for them to keep it invested and utilize it for their retirement. So now you've shifted not only your economy and increasing the economic aspects of New Mexico, you're keeping people in New Mexico, you're giving the workforce a higher level of skill set, and giving everyone an opportunity to live their American dream.
Now, New Mexico wouldn't be the first to do this. This is kind of a movement that's going across the nation. Many states are thinking about baby bonds, have instituted a program very similar to what we're proposing here. Why is this taking off?
State treasurers, we're really excited about this. So Treasurer Eric Russell from Connecticut, along with former Treasurer Wooden from Connecticut, had worked on this with their legislature and governor. They only do it for what's called the Huskies, which is their Medicaid participants, and allow for a certain amount of money to be invested for those children. So as of July 1st of this year, every Husky baby in Connecticut has this trust fund incorporated into the system for them. Eric Russell is going to be here for our Baby Bond Symposium this next month, October 16th, 17th, to help talk about it, along with Dr. Hamilton from the New School in New York. Dr. Hamilton was an individual that worked with Senator Brooker back when he was running for president, talking about baby bonds. So it's been something long coming, but I think treasurers being able to see how this can expand our economy, help to bridge that divide, and it's just a game changer for us. It's really starting to take off, and a lot of nonprofits and non-for-profit profits, other organizations, banks, are all coming together realizing that this is something that helps our communities and our economy. And to keep in mind, it's only within your own state. So that money won't be used for a house in another state or for schooling in another state. It's all money that's staying in New Mexico with the children that are staying in New Mexico.
Now, New Mexico is one of the poorest states, if not the poorest states in the nation. We live paycheck to paycheck. Many of our residents do. How would you be able to sell the idea of baby bonds to this population that could be skeptical about money,
Sure.
even though it's not money they currently have? This is something they could earn over time. How would you convey this story about why baby bonds are important to the state where we're struggling from paycheck to paycheck?
A couple of ways. We live paycheck to paycheck, and even though we have a majority-minority population, we are very rich in other ways. We have the second largest permanent fund, about $55 billion currently. We have money at this time and opportunity to be able to utilize these funds if the legislature and the governor agree. You also have to look at like a spreadsheet on when you're reconciling. You're putting money in something that's positive, that's going to help something to grow and be invested in, versus putting more money in the system to sort of chase all of the other things that happen. So right now, for example, 85–90% of all children that are born into Medicaid immediately. That tells you we have the poverty system. But instead of having to be a child that has to be on Medicaid, why don't we help people to be able to get to that next level so that their children and their children's children will have the opportunity to just grow on their own accord without as much of social services. Incarceration is another big one. Instead of putting money towards a person being incarcerated, why don't we use that money instead to be able to assist our children to live in a more prosperous life and be able to fulfill their dreams?
Great idea. Now talk about process. How can we get this done? This is an idea that you're proposing. What needs to be done to make sure this is institutionalized?
So we need teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Right now, our Speaker of the House, Javier Martinez, and I are working on the legislation with our two teams. We have a symposium on October 17th here in Albuquerque at the Hispanic Cultural Center. And we're going to bring people not only from New Mexico, but people from other parts of the country to talk about baby bonds, educate people, teach them what it is, what it isn't, and then be able to ask our legislators to have a private discussion with Dr. Hamilton and Treasurer Eric Russell about any questions they have about their process or what this does and what it doesn't do. And then hopefully have enough allies that are willing to help build a coalition that will then move this into the direction of the legislative process during the next session, along with a lot of allies from the legislature. You know, Linda Serrato is a visionary that helped us get $160,000 to be able to use to help us structure baby bonds going into the next legislative session. There's other legislators who are really excited and see the positive effects that this could bring to our community and our state, and keeping our children here.
Take me back a while. Let's step back. You're norteña from Las Vegas. Growing up in the area, it's rich in a lot of areas, as you mentioned, but it's also an area that has struggled with poverty. How, growing up in that area, and what you saw in terms of poverty, in terms of struggle, has influenced you to become so passionate about baby bonds? What did you see growing up, and how has that influenced you today?
I saw my parents work day in and day out, raising 3 kids, and still not having enough to make ends meet at times. I saw a lot of other family members in my community who worked really hard. They were honest, good paying people with their jobs, and would do other jobs just to be able to survive. Others who sometimes needed services. That's why I'm passionate about it, not just being Medicaid recipients, but everyone in New Mexico, because there's a lot of those families that are right at that middle line of like a bad circumstance or situation, putting them under the poverty line, even worse than just like right barely surviving. And I see a lot of families and parents and grandparents and caregivers who want the best for their children and get stressed out with the idea of not knowing how they're going to be able to provide that for them. I think since my younger days, now that we have college and an opportunity of the lottery scholarship, we helped push that when I was in the student senate at Highlands University, along with a lot of other people. Now we have free college for the most part. Now we need to come to another step where why shouldn't everyone have a little bit of money like other kids who had trust funds to be able to have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams, and in the same sense be able to do something that helps impact their community in a positive way. So I just feel that growing up in a small rural New Mexico area really taught me the fact that as much as the community tries to work together, there's some things that no matter how hard they work, they're not going to be able to sustain without shifting that wealth divide. And this is one of those ways to be able to do it so that every child does have the opportunity, and every parent or caregiver can feel a little bit of relief from all the stresses of the world and trying to help benefit their children, that there's some support there from the state.
The wealth divide, of course, baby bonds long term would be meaningless without some sort of financial literacy. You don't want people cashing this out and getting the latest iPhone, for example. The state legislature failed to pass an amendment this past session requiring financial literacy in high schools. They made it an option, which means it probably is not going to happen in many schools. What do we lose when we don't make financial literacy a priority here?
That's why we're last. That's a big issue. Growing up, we didn't have a savings account. I didn't know what that meant. A lady from the bank was the lady who taught me about being able to, subtract and add in what you bring in and what you take out. It was the lady that taught me about overdraft fees, and her name was Nora Ortega. She's since passed, but she taught me a lot, but it wasn't school that taught me that. And I was in calculus by the time I was a junior. I was always good in math. But if you don't understand life skills with the financial aspects of it, you're not setting people up for success. When I went to college, all those credit cards, you thought they were free, like you didn't understand the concept, and you still didn't know 33%, that you're actually paying more on interest sometimes than you're paying on how much you actually borrowed. Those types of concepts need to be taught in our schools so that we're setting people up for success, whether they decide to go into the workforce or go and get educated either through the trades or through college. I am absolutely passionate about financial literacy because I know had I had it, I would have been a lot more successful with a lot less mistakes along the way. And so would a lot of my friends, my classmates, my siblings. Having it as a local option makes it harder because now I got to go on the road. I'm talking to superintendents, I'm talking to students, and I'm asking them to ask their schools to put financial literacy not only as an option, but as part of the graduation requirements. On the other end, I'm begging superintendents and school educators to please put this in. And there's a lot of them who are already working on it. The law already requires it to be an elective. But most children, if you don't know, you don't know. And their parents, they won't know either. So who's going to pick that as an elective to necessarily understand that that's going to impact their future if your family comes from an area like mine where we didn't even have a savings account? So for me, it's critical that we have it as a graduation requirement. It's unfortunate that there was both the chairman of House Education and Senate Education, along with Senator Mimi Stewart, and AFT, which is Teachers Union, that didn't support it in the committee hearings and said that that's not where the direction we want to go right now, that we want it to be a local option. So I'm asking all the local folks to please help us to get our children equipped for a brighter future and for making decisions that are going to be impactful. Once you ruin your credit score, it's really hard to shift that. The idea that my dad taught me, don't ever lend out your credit. That was something my parents taught me. But a lot of kids don't have parents that know or understand that concept. Interest off of loans. We wouldn't necessarily know what that means unless someone taught it to us or we learned it through a bad experience. So financial literacy is going to also be a component of baby bonds. In order to be able to use that money, you'd have to manage some type of financial literacy that the state treasurer's office would allow. And currently, I think that's something that we need to do for New Mexico so that we're not on the last of every list on education.
New Mexico is the most Hispanic state in the nation, yet Latinos are unlikely to have stock, retirement, a lot of extra savings from pensions all the way down to mutual funds. When you compare it to other Americans, how can we change this?
Start talking about it a lot more. When I heard about stocks, I thought that was something white people did. I didn't know that it was for everybody. A lot of times it sounded like it was too complicated to understand. So I think familiarizing it, let's talk about, for example, salt and pepper back in the day. Let's talk about sex, baby. Nobody wanted to talk about it until the HIV crisis. Now we're in a financial crisis. There's so many people who don't quite understand finances, and it's an awkward thing to talk about. And culturally, we don't usually talk about like, how much did you pay for your house or how much do you earn? Those are all things that we hold very near and dear, but these are things we need to have conversations about at our kitchen tables so that we're better equipped to make those financial decisions, even the ones that help us learn through failure. It help us to then become successful. For example, back a predatory loan. We just got rid of predatory lending a couple years ago. There was a lot of Native areas that ended up giving their jewelry or giving their heirlooms to people with a high interest rate and never being able to get them back. Those types of stories need to be told to their grandchildren so that we don't make the same mistakes that we made in our past. We learn from it.
And lastly, Bank of America, they issued a report just recently that said Latina GDP is growing faster than almost any group in the United States, any group of Americans. This, again, is the most Hispanic state. We have the highest percentage of Latinas here. Paint a picture. If we were to get them that financial literacy, those baby bonds, access to capital to start small businesses, how would the nation, how would this state transform if we were to take advantage of that Latina GDP growth? What would happen in New Mexico?
We would stop selling ourselves short. We have so many resources with our people, with our environment, with less traffic, with 4 seasons, with land, with air, wind, and all of the resources people want, even within different industries. we would stop selling ourselves short. We would understand our worth, and we would have worth, and we would have value, and we'd be able to increase those values in education, in technology, in energy, in healthcare, in all the different realms that New Mexicans want to contribute in their own specific way.
State Treasurer Montoya, thank you for joining us here on New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you.